Aboard the spacecraft Voyager, a hush fell over the bridge. Their sensors picked up an unprecedented anomaly, an abandoned Soviet space station, Sputnik 7, drifting silently around a distant, unnamed planet. Its gaunt silhouette was stark against the star-strewn expanse. Commander Elias Vance, a veteran explorer with a keen eye for the unknown, peered at the monitor. His curiosity piqued. "We've got to check it out," he declared, his voice a calculated blend of excitement and caution. Dr. Lena Petrova, the mission's linguist, leaned in, her gaze tracing the faint cyrillic. Jack Spanner Riley, the chief engineer, already began preparing their suits and equipment, a professional resolve settling over the small, skilled team. The approach was slow, the tension palpable, as Voyager nudged into Sputnik 7's derelict embrace. The profound silence of the void enveloped them, broken only by the hiss of the airlock. It slid open, revealing the station's dark interior, a time capsule floating in the cosmic abyss. Dr. Petrova had noted the barely visible Cyrillic lettering on the hull, a chilling whisper of a forgotten past. The airlock's light pierced the gloom, beckoning them into the unknown. Stepping inside, the crew was met with a scene frozen in time. Equipment lay scattered, personal belongings strewn as if the inhabitants had left in a desperate hurry, or worse, vanished. Faded Soviet propaganda posters lined the walls, their messages of progress and exploration now a cruel irony. Dr. Petrova ran her gloved fingers over a dusty desk, picking up a photo frame. It held a picture of a young cosmonaut, his bright smile a stark, unsettling contrast to the eerie silence. In the silent command center, Jax Riley, the engineer, found a logbook lying open, its pages brittle and yellowed with age. Dr. Lena Petrova leaned closer, tracing the faded Cyrillic script. Her voice, usually so precise, carried a growing note of unease as she translated entries detailing routine operations, daily reports, and mundane checks. But then, abruptly, they stopped. The last entry, incomplete, was dated over 3 decades ago. "This place is a gold mine," Jax muttered, his voice echoing slightly in the stillness. "But why was it abandoned, and where is the crew?" As they ventured deeper into the station, the mystery only deepened. They discovered the living quarters untouched, a game of chess still laid out mid-game as if its players had simply vanished mid-move. Further on, a research lab remained sealed, its contents hidden behind a thick metal door that promised secrets. The silent, perfectly preserved scenes reinforced the suddenness of the abandonment, suggesting something far more complex and sinister than a simple evacuation. It was in the heart of the station that they found their first truly chilling clue, a large, heavily sealed container marked with stark warnings in Russian. Inside, Commander Vance's light played over documents and strange metallic artifacts, unlike any technology he had ever seen. Their surfaces were etched with symbols that were neither Russian nor any known human language. Dr. Petrova, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination, began translating the accompanying papers. Her voice trembled as the reality of their find sank in. "This isn't just a space station," she murmured. "It was a research facility for something otherworldly." As they pieced together the clues, a terrifying picture began to form, one of a secret Soviet project, codenamed Cosmic Veil, that delved into realms far beyond human understanding. Sputnik 7 was more than just a relic of the space race. It was a gateway to secrets long buried in the cold depths of space, blurring the lines between scientific curiosity and something profoundly ominous. The initial documents hinted at attempts to not just study, but actively harness the power of whatever alien presence they had found. Delving deeper into the documents, they uncovered logs of communications with Moscow, filled with urgent, cryptic messages. The tone grew increasingly desperate, hinting at an uncontrollable situation, a discovery that had spiraled into a nightmare. "The last entries are frantic," Dr. Petrova noted, her face pale. "They speak of containment breaches, of something escaping. And then, nothing. The communications just stop." A subtle, unsettling clattering noise, like metal on metal, echoed from somewhere deep within the station. As Commander Elias Vance, Dr. Lena Petrova, and Jack Spanner Riley prepared to leave the central chamber, a faint, inexplicable noise echoed through the desolate corridors of Sputnik 7. It was a distant, almost imperceptible clattering, like metal on metal. Vance, his hand raised, signaled for quiet, his gaze sweeping the dim space. A ripple of unease passed through the crew. The realization dawned that they might not be alone. The sound, a chilling reminder that the past might not be as dormant as it seemed, sent a shiver down their spines. Creeping along the dimly lit passageway, they followed the sound to its source. Dr. Petrova led the way, guided by old blueprints she had deciphered, pointing them towards a section marked as restricted. The corridors here were narrower, more claustrophobic, filled with the stale scent of metal and something indefinably ancient. Their suit lights cut through the gloom, casting dancing shadows that seemed to stretch and twist, amplifying the unsettling atmosphere of the derelict station. Each step echoed, a stark intrusion in the profound silence. The door to this restricted area was unlike any they had seen, a testament to the secrets it guarded. Heavily reinforced, it was sealed with a formidable combination lock, whose code had been lost to time. Jax, equipped with an array of cutting tools from Voyager, set to work. Sparks flew as he meticulously cut through the lock, his hands steady despite the unnerving atmosphere and the subtle tremor that had begun to plague him. The grinding screech of metal on metal filled the silence, a harsh counterpoint to the crew's anxious waiting. With a final, grating shudder, the heavy door gave way, revealing what lay beyond. The room was a stark contrast to the rest of the station, pristine, as if frozen in time. In its center stood a large metallic table, cluttered with alien artifacts, objects of unknown materials and purpose, their surfaces etched with symbols that were neither Russian nor any known human language. Shelves lined the walls, holding jars and containers, some containing organic matter that defied identification. Dust-thick documents were scattered across the room, promising profound, unsettling revelations. Dr. Petrova, her eyes wide with both fear and fascination, began sifting through the papers. Her voice trembled as the reality of their find sank in. "These documents, they talk about experiments," she said, barely above a whisper. "The Soviets found something out here, something not from our world." She explained they had brought it back for study, for experimentation. Then, holding up a faded photograph depicting a strange amorphous shape held within a containment unit, she concluded, "Whatever they found, Commander, it was alive, and it was unlike anything we know." The faint, inexplicable clattering echoed again through the desolate corridors of Sputnik 7, a chilling confirmation that the station was not entirely dormant. Commander Vance signaled for quiet, his hand raised, his gaze sweeping the dimly lit passageway. Jax, always methodical, led the way, his suit lights cutting through the gloom as they crept along, following the sound. It led them to a sealed-off section, remarkably untouched by the decay that gripped the rest of the station. With practiced ease, Jax carefully pried open a heavy door, revealing a small, cluttered living area. Amidst the disarray of personal belongings and old equipment, an elderly man sat hunched. He was gaunt, with a wild, matted beard and eyes that flickered with a disquieting mix of fear and confusion. Dressed in a tattered Soviet-era cosmonaut suit, he stared at the intruders, his expression one of profound disbelief, as if they were phantoms. Dr. Lena Petrova, her voice soft and empathetic, stepped forward, speaking gently in Russian. "Who are you? How are you here?" she asked, the words hanging heavy in the stale air. The crew exchanged stunned glances, a living soul on Sputnik 7. The man's voice, when he finally spoke, was a hoarse croak, his Russian accented and tinged with years of isolation and a hint of madness. "Ivan," he rasped. "I was the engineer. The others, they're gone. All gone." Petrova maintained her calm, empathetic demeanor, her eyes fixed on his haunted face, encouraging him to continue. The Voyager crew listened, stunned, as Ivan, now identified as Old Man Volkov, began to recount his fragmented story, the first chilling hints of the station's deeper horror beginning to surface. Volkov spoke of the station's true mission, of the alien discovery, and the subsequent experiments that had spiraled into paranoia, violence, and ultimately disaster. The station became a prison, he whispered, his eyes wide and haunted, darting to unseen shadows in the corners of the room. We couldn't control it. The thing we found, it changed us, drove us mad. He described crew members disappearing one by one, taken by the shadows, by the whispers, his voice barely audible as he relived the profound horror of his past. Volkov's tale was fragmented, his memory fractured by decades of isolation and fear. He spoke of seeing things in the dark, of voices that weren't human, his account punctuated by bouts of chilling silence during which he seemed to listen to sounds only he could hear. Dr. Petrova, observing closely, noticed something unsettling. The walls of Volkov's hidden living area were covered in frantic scribblings, a disturbing mix of technical notes interwoven with ramblings about unseen watchers and voices from the void, a testament to the pervasive nature of the entity's influence. Aboard the Voyager, Commander Elias Vance guided the frail old man Volkov through the airlock, the ship's sterile environment a stark contrast to the decaying relic they had just left. Dr. Anya Sharma met them, her expression professional, but tinged with concern as Vance helped Volkov into the infirmary. She began her initial checks, finding him physically frail, as expected for a man decades isolated, yet nothing in his vitals explained his survival or his fractured mind. Later, on the bridge, the core crew, Vance, Dr. Lena Petrova, and Jax Riley, debated their next move. Volkov's presence raised more questions than answers, his harrowing tale a ghost story brought to life, hinting at horrors far beyond the derelict station. In the infirmary, old man Volkov drifted in and out of coherence, his eyes sometimes clear, sometimes lost in the distant past. In his lucid moments, his voice, raspy and thick with a Russian accent, offered cryptic, chilling warnings. "Leave the station," he croaked, gripping Vance's arm with surprising strength. "Flee the horrors it contains." His words were heavy with a profound resignation, a weariness that suggested the shadows of Sputnik 7 were not merely confined to its metal hull, but clung to those who dared to disturb its long slumber, a grip that would not easily release. Vance listened, a knot forming in his gut, the old man's words validating his own growing unease. Commander Vance stood on the Voyager bridge, staring out at the distant, silent Sputnik 7. Volkov's story, fragmented and terrifying, had deepened the mystery of the abandoned station, transforming it from a historical anomaly into a living harbinger of danger. It was a key to understanding the past, but also a chilling prophecy for their future. Vance grappled with the impossible decision: retreat, abandoning the truth they had come so far to uncover, or press on, risking their sanity and lives. The weight of command settled heavily on him, but deep down, he knew the mystery of Sputnik 7, the secrets of Project Cosmic Veil, were too great to abandon. He had to know. Burdened by Volkov's harrowing account, the Voyager crew returned to Sputnik 7. The airlock hissed, and they re-entered the silent maw of the station, heading directly for the living quarters, a section Volkov had alluded to with palpable dread. Here, amidst the remnants of daily life, personal items, faded photographs, and mementos of Earth lay scattered, frozen in time. But it was the walls that truly captured their attention. Covered in a chaotic tapestry of cryptic writings, scrawled in Russian, they spoke of fear, desperation, and a creeping madness that had consumed the station's inhabitants. Dr. Petrova leaned in, her eyes tracing the frantic script, a grim resolve on her face. Dr. Lena Petrova moved along the corridors of the living quarters, her fingers brushing the frantic scribbles, her voice a low, chilling murmur as she translated. "Voices from the stars," she read, her voice trembling. "Eyes in the dark, the void that whispers." The messages varied wildly, some frantic pleas for help, others chillingly resigned acceptances of an unspeakable fate. One particular note, scrawled in a shaky hand, stood out, a profound and terrifying pronouncement. "We are not alone in the cosmos, but we should have been." A shiver ran down Petrova's spine, resonating with the growing dread in her own mind. In one of the living quarters, the crew discovered a makeshift shrine, a disturbing tableau adorned with bizarre symbols they didn't recognize, interspersed with faded photographs of the original Sputnik 7 crew. At its macabre center, an image of the alien artifact they had found earlier was prominently displayed, surrounded by notes and frantic drawings depicting it in various states of activation. It was clear the artifact, and whatever cosmic horror it represented, had become an all-consuming obsession for the cosmonauts, a source of both unsettling reverence and profound, mind-shattering dread. Commander Vance exchanged a grim look with Jax, the implications chilling. In the eerie stillness of Sputnik 7's living quarters, Dr. Lena Petrova's voice, usually so precise, now carried a tremor as she deciphered the frantic scrawlings. The walls became a tapestry of fear, weaving a narrative of an encounter beyond human understanding that had utterly shattered the minds of the Soviet crew. Lost colleagues, shadows dancing in the periphery of vision, a pervasive sense of being watched. These were the recurrent motifs. Commander Elias Vance, a man of pragmatism and logic, struggled to reconcile these tales of psychological horror with the stark reality of their scientific mission. Yet, the overwhelming evidence, etched into the very fabric of the station, demanded belief. Something otherworldly had happened here, something that had driven seasoned cosmonauts to the brink of madness. Among the fragmented writings, Dr. Petrova discovered a logbook, its entries growing progressively more disjointed, then near incoherent. The final pages were a testament to impending doom, a chilling crescendo of terror. "It's coming for us," one shaky hand had scrawled. "We opened the door, and now it walks among us." The words hung heavy in the stale air, a direct, terrifying threat from the past. This final testament left the Voyager crew with more questions than answers, and a pervasive sense of dread that clung to them like the station's dust. What had the station's crew truly encountered? After leaving the haunting confines of the living quarters, a sense of deep unease clung to the Voyager crew. They tried to focus on their mission, but the cryptic messages scrolled on Sputnik 7's walls echoed in their minds. It wasn't long before the first symptoms appeared. Jack Spanner Riley was the first to notice. As he worked on a delicate piece of equipment in the engineering bay, his hands began to tremble uncontrollably. He dismissed it initially as fatigue, a natural consequence of the mission's stress. But the shaking worsened, becoming a persistent, unnerving vibration. A deep, unexplainable dread began to settle over him, a cold weight in his stomach that had nothing to do with gravity. Dr. Lena Petrova, too, started to feel the effects. Alone in her quarters, she began hearing faint whispers, indistinct and chilling, like secrets breathed on the edge of hearing. At first, she rationalized it as the stress of the mission playing tricks on her mind, the lingering echoes of Volkov's madness. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent, a cacophony of unintelligible murmurs that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the ship. Her linguistic sensitivity, once her greatest asset, now seemed to make her a conduit, particularly vulnerable to this insidious auditory assault. Commander Elias Vance, ever the stoic leader, observed his crew's deteriorating condition with growing concern. Jax's tremors, Lena's increasing distraction. It was a pattern eerily reminiscent of Volkov's fragmented tale. He ordered a return to Voyager, hoping that distance from the station might alleviate their symptoms. But as they made their way back, the station itself seemed to resist their departure. Corridors that should have been familiar were now labyrinthine and confusing, twisting and turning in impossible ways, as if Sputnik 7 had changed its layout, actively working to keep them within its grasp. Back on Voyager, the crew's condition only worsened. Jax's tremors were now accompanied by bouts of paranoia. He claimed to see figures lurking in the shadows, watching him from the dim corners of the engineering bay. Dr. Petrova's whispers turned into a relentless cacophony of unintelligible murmurs, a chorus of terror that kept her from sleep. Dr. Anya Sharma, the ship's medical officer, conducted a series of tests. Blood work, neurological scans, all came back normal. The lack of a physical cause left the crew to wonder, with chilling certainty, if the sickness was, indeed, in their minds. Old man Volkov, now clearer than he had been in days, looked at Commander Vance and Dr. Sharma with eyes that held a chilling, knowing dread. He recognized the signs in their troubled faces, the subtle tremors, the vacant stares. "It's the station," he warned, his frail voice raspy. "It changes you, gets inside your head. The longer you're there, the more it takes hold." His words, a chilling echo from the past, validated their deepest fears. bringing an unnerving clarity to the affliction that now gnawed at the Voyager crew. Vance's face tightened, a heavy weight settling in his gut. Lone on the Voyager bridge, Commander Vance stared at the distant, derelict silhouette of Sputnik 7, a silent predator in the void. He was a leader, a pragmatist, but the past few days had challenged every tenet of his command. Should he retreat? Cut their losses, flee this cosmic infection? His mind screamed for self-preservation, for the safety of his crew. Yet a deeper, insatiable curiosity, a profound sense of duty to uncover the truth of this anomaly, gnawed at him. The mystery of Sputnik 7 was too vast, too significant, to abandon. It was an impossible choice, but one he knew he had to make. The crew, gathered between the sterile confines of the medical bay and the command bridge, wrestled with their deteriorating mental states. Jax's tremors intensified, his eyes darting at unseen figures. Dr. Petrova clutched her head, barely coherent amidst the cacophony of whispers. Dr. Sharma, baffled by the normal medical scans, could only confirm one terrifying truth. This was no ordinary contagion. This was an affliction transcending human understanding, a sickness born from Sputnik 7's eerie past and the otherworldly entity it harbored. The question was no longer how to cure it, but how to confront its source, a source that now seemed to be subtly, insidiously, calling them back. Despite the escalating afflictions, Commander Vance knew they needed answers. They couldn't leave Sputnik 7 without understanding what was truly happening, especially now that it was affecting them so deeply. With a heavy heart, he ordered another expedition onto the station. The team prepared in the airlock with a grim urgency, their faces weary but determined. They were driven by a desperate need to uncover the truth before their minds completely betrayed them, before the station consumed them entirely. The ominous hiss of the airlock closing sealed their commitment. Their path led them deeper into Sputnik 7, to an unexplored section marked on the old blueprints as a high-security research area. The door was unlike any other on the station, heavily reinforced, sealed with multiple complex locks, a testament to the valuable or dangerous secrets it guarded. Jax, his hands still trembling, but his engineering instincts kicking in, worked diligently. Sparks flew as he bypassed the security measures, his precision a defiant battle against his deteriorating condition. The grating screech of metal filled the tense silence, building anticipation for what lay beyond. With a final protesting hiss, the heavy door slid open. The room beyond was a sight both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Dominating the chamber was a large alien device, an intricate lattice of unknown materials, pulsating with a faint, otherworldly light. Monitors displayed data in a mix of Cyrillic and an unfamiliar script, while tables were strewn with experimental notes. It was the heart of the station's dark legacy, the true source of its power, and the terrifying affliction that now plagued the Voyager crew. Vance, Petrova, and Jax stood transfixed, a profound revelation dawning. Dr. Lena Petrova, her head throbbing with the entity's insistent whispers, desperately sifted through the yellowed documents. Her fingers traced Cyrillic script, her academic focus battling the rising tide of internal chaos. They were trying to understand it, she murmured, her voice thin, to harness its power. A shiver ran through her. This device, it's not just alien technology. It's a bridge, a gateway to somewhere else. The papers detailed a secret Soviet program, its ambitions far exceeding mere scientific curiosity. Commander Elias Vance examined the pulsating alien lattice, its faint glow intensifying slightly in response to their presence. Early entries in the logs spoke of scientific excitement, but the tone quickly shifted to alarm, then desperation. They didn't know what they were dealing with, Vance muttered, his voice grim. This wasn't just research. It was a weaponization program. They wanted to use it. The chilling implications of such hubris settled heavily in the air. Jax Spanner Riley, despite the tremor in his hands, was drawn to the alien device. His engineer's instinct compelled him to inspect its intricate design. He pressed a hand against its cool, unknown surface. "It's active," he announced, a mix of fascination and dread in his voice. "Whatever it does, it's still doing it. And I think it's affecting us, affecting our minds." The horrifying realization slammed into the crew. Their sickness, the hallucinations, the paranoia, all stemmed from this malevolent artifact. The air in the chamber grew thick, shadows deepening, as a wave of nausea and disorientation washed over the crew. A surge of energy rippled through the station, emanating directly from the device. The walls shuddered violently, and a low, otherworldly growl echoed through the metal structure. Old Man Volkov, his eyes wide with pure terror, screamed, "It's awake! The Guardian of the Gateway! We've disturbed it!" Commander Vance shouted orders, but his voice was swallowed by the groaning of the station. The station itself began to change, its architecture warping in impossible ways. Corridors twisted and elongated, familiar doorways sealed shut, and new passages opened where none had been. It felt like a living, breathing entity. The crew, caught in this impossible transformation, found themselves disoriented, struggling to comprehend the shifting layout. Commander Vance's shouted orders were drowned out by the groaning of metal bending and warping, the flickering lights casting their panicked faces in stark relief. Dr. Lena Petrova clutched her head, a guttural scream tearing from her throat as the whispers in her mind grew to a deafening chorus, a cacophony of terror and pain emanating from the very walls. Jax, his face pale with horror, turned from the console he'd been frantically working at. "I can't shut it down," he yelled over the din. "Whatever this thing is, it's beyond our understanding. We've unleashed something terrible." Driven by a primal urge to survive, the crew made a desperate attempt to navigate the ever-changing maze, the device pulsing malevolently at the heart of the chaos. As they moved through the twisting corridors, glimpses of something lurking in the shadows began to appear, a formless, shifting presence that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. It was as if the station itself had become a predator, and they its unwitting prey. Commander Vance, despite his own fraying sanity, attempted to map their progress, but the station's ever-changing layout rendered his efforts futile. Each turn seemed to lead them deeper, further from the safety of Voyager. Hallucinations now plagued the crew, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. Jax babbled about ancient secrets whispered through the machinery, claiming to see figures in the shadows. Dr. Petrova spoke in a daze of towering structures and starless skies, lost in visions of an alien world. Trust began to fray as paranoia set in, each crew member viewing the others with suspicion, unsure if they were speaking to a friend or a figment of their tortured imagination. Amidst the chaos, Old Man Volkov muttered prophecies of doom, his warnings chillingly clear. The twisting, shifting corridors finally gave way to a chamber of impossible scale, far deeper within Sputnik 7 than they had ever imagined. At its heart it hovered, a formless, shifting mass, a vortex of shadow and light that defied all understanding of physics. Alien glyphs pulsed on the vast walls, mirroring the entity's eerie glow. Its presence was overwhelming, seeping into their minds, filling them with visions of distant, starless worlds and ancient galaxies. Commander Vance, Dr. Petrova, Jax Riley, and Old Man Volkov stood transfixed, caught between profound terror and an almost religious awe, the very air around them vibrating with its raw, incomprehensible power. Old Man Volkov, his voice a ragged whisper now, laced with a chilling mix of fear and knowing, broke the silence. "It's the Guardian," he croaked, eyes wide and unfocused, yet seeing beyond the physical. "The Keeper of the Gateway. We were never meant to find this." Commander Vance, struggling to maintain his composure against the psychic assault, pushed past his own dread. "What do you want from us?" he demanded, his voice barely audible above the entity's silent hum. The answer came not in words, but as a torrent of images and emotions, flooding directly into their minds. Through the entity's silent, overwhelming communication, they witnessed Sputnik 7's past, the Soviet crew's initial discovery, the subsequent experiments. They felt the entity's confusion and simmering anger at being violently roused from its eons-long slumber, its primal curiosity about the fragile humans who dared to disturb it. The visions solidified its role, a sentinel, an ancient guardian of a portal, a cosmic gateway to realms far beyond human comprehension. The Soviet experiments, in their hubris, hadn't just studied it. They had inadvertently weakened the very barriers between dimensions, allowing the entity's influence to bleed into their world. The revelations brought a profound, existential dread. The entity, though not inherently malevolent, was a being of immense, unfathomable power, capable of bending reality to its will. Its awakening had inadvertently unleashed forces that the human mind was simply not equipped to comprehend or contain. As this terrifying understanding settled upon them, the vast chamber began to quake. The entity's form pulsed with increasing intensity, a growing beacon of chaotic energy. Their very presence here, their fractured minds, were destabilizing the already fragile balance of the gateway, threatening a cosmic catastrophe. Amidst the escalating chaos and the entity's growing power, a grim clarity settled over the Voyager crew. They knew what they had to do. They had to reseal the gateway, to contain the entity once more, to prevent the fabric of reality from unraveling further. It was a daunting task, one that would demand every ounce of their remaining strength, sanity, and ingenuity. Frantic discussions erupted, desperate ideas exchanged, as they sought a solution, any solution, to this impossible cosmic dilemma. As the crew wrestled with their desperate plan, Old Man Volkov, his eyes now holding a strange, resigned determination, stepped forward. "I will stay," he announced, his voice steady despite the tremor in his aged frame. "I am part of this station, part of its history. I opened this door long ago. It's only right that I be the one to close it." Commander Vance immediately objected, but deep down he knew Volkov was right. The station systems, the alien technology, and Volkov's intimate, if tortured, knowledge were crucially intertwined. Dr. Petrova and Jax, their faces pale with mental and physical exhaustion, nodded grimly. Together, they formulated the plan: overload the station's reactor, creating a controlled implosion that would collapse the gateway and seal the entity within. In the heart of Sputnik 7's control room, the air thrummed with frantic energy. Old Man Volkov, his voice surprisingly clear amidst the chaos, guided Jax through the reactor overload sequence, his gnarled fingers pointing at arcane consoles. Jax, despite the persistent tremor in his hands, worked with a precision that belied his deteriorating state, rerouting power conduits. Dr. Petrova, clutching her head, fought the relentless whispers in her mind, her hands hovering over a core stabilization panel, her strained focus critical. The entire station groaned around them, a tortured metal beast, as the entity's influence surged, making the gateway visibly destabilize. Every flicker of the monitors, every shriek of tortured metal, reminded the crew that time was a luxury they no longer possessed. "It's ready," Jax reported, his voice raspy. Commander Vance, his face etched with grim determination, gave the order. "Evacuate. Now." As the Voyager crew turned to leave, Elias paused, turning back to Volkov. The old cosmonaut stood by the console, his back straight, a faint, almost serene smile playing on his lips. Elias offered a final, solemn nod, a silent acknowledgement of the bravery, the sacrifice. Volkov returned it, a flicker of understanding passing between them, a wordless gratitude. Then, Elias turned, leading his remaining crew towards the airlock, leaving Volkov to his fate. Alone in the control room, Old Man Volkov watched the flickering screens, the reactor readings climbing towards critical overload. The last of the Voyager crew vanished from the corridor cameras. A profound sense of peace settled over him, calming the ghosts of decades. He had lived with this horror, this regret, for too long. Now he had a chance to make things right, to close the door he had helped open, to contain the entity and protect a world that knew nothing of its vast, terrifying secrets. He closed his eyes, accepting his fate, a silent guardian at the threshold of the void. Aboard Voyager, the crew watched in stunned silence as Sputnik 7, once a symbol of ambition, then a monument to horror, imploded. A brilliant, blinding light consumed the derelict station, collapsing it in on itself until nothing remained but a fading, ghostly glow against the backdrop of distant stars. They had escaped, a raw, fragile relief washing over them, but the cost of their survival, the image of Volkov's sacrifice, was etched deep into their hearts and minds. Elias set a course for Earth, the journey back now impossibly quiet, heavy with unspoken burdens. The return journey to Earth was a silent odyssey. Each crew member, lost in their own thoughts, processed the harrowing ordeal. They had faced a cosmic horror, witnessed wonders and terrors beyond human comprehension, and somehow emerged alive. But they were irrevocably changed. The vast, mysterious universe, once a distant dream, was now an intimate, terrifying reality. Dr. Petrova still heard faint echoes of the whispers. Jack still felt phantom tremors in his hands, and Commander Vance carried the profound weight of the secrets they now bore, a silent testament to the void. As Voyager retreated from the implosion site, a new, unexpected terror unfolded. A shockwave of pure energy, a ripple in the very fabric of space-time, erupted from the collapsing Sputnik 7. Charged with the raw alien power of the gateway, it struck Voyager with unrelenting force. Alarms blared, a cacophony of screeching warnings as systems faltered. The ship was buffeted violently, its hull groaning under the immense stress. "Commander, we're losing primary power!" Jax yelled, fighting the controls, as the ship shuddered, threatening to tear apart. The danger, it seemed, was far from over. The implosion of Sputnik 7 sent a shockwave through the void, a ripple in the very fabric of space that slammed into Voyager with brutal force. Alarms blared, systems screamed, but it was Dr. Lena Petrova who bore the brunt of the cosmic energy. Her mind, already frayed by the entity's insidious whispers, shattered under the impact. She collapsed, a guttural scream tearing from her throat, as visions from beyond the gateway flooded her consciousness. Glimpses of impossible geometries, of other worlds, other realities, collided in a maelstrom of cosmic chaos within her mind. Jack Spanner Riley, despite his own tremors, fought to stabilize the ship's failing systems, while in the medical bay, Dr. Anya Sharma worked frantically over Petrova's convulsing form, her instruments flickering uselessly. Voyager reeled, caught in the wake of a cosmic event. The navigation console on the bridge flickered wildly, showering sparks, its star maps becoming an erratic, meaningless scramble. They were no longer charting a course. Voyager was being pulled off course, dragged into an unknown trajectory by the collapsing gateway. Commander Elias Vance gripped his command chair, his knuckles white. "Report, Riley," he barked, his voice a strained beacon in the cacophony of alarms. "What's our status?" Jax's reply was garbled, his words battling against the ship's groaning hull. The shockwave had done more than just damage the ship. It had torn a fissure in the fabric of reality itself. The space around Voyager warped, stars stretching and distorting into impossible patterns. They were adrift, no longer in their own universe but a sea of alien dimensions where the laws of physics seemed to unravel. Commander Vance struggled to comprehend their impossible predicament. Then, from the medical bay, a faint, almost ethereal voice cut through the chaos. Dr. Petrova, in a moment of terrifying lucidity, whispered, "The gateway. It's a pattern, a flow." Vance's eyes snapped open. "Riley, redirect all available power to engines and navigation. We follow the flow Maria is seeing. It's our only shot." It was a desperate gamble, born from the very madness that threatened to consume them. With a mix of ingenuity and sheer will, Jax jury-rigged the ship's systems, attempting to follow the fluctuating patterns of energy and space-time, essentially riding the wave of the collapsing gateway. Voyager lurched forward, propelled by the last reserves of its engines, diving headlong into the heart of the maelstrom. The fabric of space around them undulated and twisted, stars and galaxies contorting into surreal, terrifying patterns. The crew, strapped into their seats, braced themselves against the violent tumult. Fear had given way to a strange calm. They were beyond it now, resigned to their fate, whatever it might be, as they plunged deeper into the unknown. Suddenly, a blinding, piercing white light enveloped the ship, blazing through every viewport and screen. The Voyager shuddered one last, violent time, and then, as quickly as it had begun, the chaos ceased. The light faded, receding to reveal the familiar, comforting tapestry of stars and galaxies, their home universe. The crew sat in stunned silence, unable to believe they had survived the ordeal. Commander Vance, his eyes wet with a relief so profound it bordered on pain, uttered a simple, heartfelt thank you to his crew, to Lena, to the universe itself. Voyager, damaged but intact, set a course for Earth. The journey back to Earth was quiet, a stark contrast to the cacophony of their escape. Each crew member was lost in their own thoughts, processing the ordeal they had endured. They had escaped the grip of a cosmic horror, witnessed wonders and terror beyond comprehension, and had come back changed. Commander Vance, Dr. Lena Petrova, Jax Riley, and Dr. Anya Sharma now carried with them the indelible knowledge of a vast, mysterious universe, a universe far more dangerous and unknowable than they had ever imagined. The experience had carved new lines onto their faces, etched a quiet determination into their souls. Voyager's return to Earth was met with a maelstrom of celebration and incredulity. Hailed as heroes, Commander Elias Vance and his crew found themselves struggling to readjust to the mundane rhythms of normal life. The debriefings were endless, the medical examinations exhaustive, as psychologists probed their minds, attempting to unravel the psychological impact of their cosmic encounter. Vance answered with a stoic professionalism, but the public awe felt hollow, a stark contrast to the quiet horror that still echoed in his crew's eyes. Dr. Lena Petrova, the most profoundly affected, spent hours under Dr. Anya Sharma's careful observation, recounting fragmented visions and the persistent whispers she'd heard aboard Sputnik 7. She showed signs of recovery, her brilliant mind slowly reconnecting with terrestrial reality, yet a new depth lingered in her gaze, a knowingness that spoke of things she could not, or perhaps would not, fully explain. Her linguistic mind, once a precise instrument, was now forever altered, attuned to frequencies beyond human comprehension. Weeks after their return, while meticulously analyzing the artifacts they had salvaged from the doomed station, Dr. Petrova made a startling discovery. Hidden within one of the seemingly inert alien devices, she found a small, seed-like object. It pulsed faintly, emitting a soft, rhythmic glow that fluctuated with an unsettling life of its own. Commander Vance and Jax Riley, brought in for immediate consultation, watched as initial analyses confirmed its nature. It bore an undeniable resemblance to the alien technology at Sputnik 7's heart. The horrifying realization solidified. The entity, or a part of it, had found a way to stow away aboard Voyager. Commander Vance immediately reported the chilling discovery to the space agency. A high-level meeting convened, bringing together top scientists and government officials. The consensus was clear and sobering. They had brought back something profoundly dangerous, an alien presence that might still be influencing them. The Voyager crew was placed under strict quarantine, and the artifact, along with the pulsating seed, was moved to a secure, undisclosed facility. World experts in physics, biology, and xenotechnology were brought in, yet the object defied all understanding, a puzzle with pieces from a different universe. As Dr. Petrova watched the baffled experts examine the alien object from behind reinforced glass, a familiar sense of foreboding settled over her. The whispers, though faint, had never truly left her. They spoke of doorways, of bridges between worlds, and of a presence waiting in the shadows. She knew, with chilling certainty, that the entity's journey, its insidious influence, was far from over. The crew of Voyager had escaped the physical labyrinth of Sputnik 7, but they now faced a new, more profound challenge, the possibility that they had brought back a piece of the cosmos that could unravel the very fabric of their reality. Their journey had only just begun,